everyone. Well, I'm not in my field today, as you can see, but I thought I would video this so that we can still share together during this time when we are unable to meet at the school. Because it's wonderful to be able to share things that are special to us about God. So, what I thought I would do was to tell you a couple of things about what I like. And first, I thought I would talk about music. I love music. I love singing and I love listening to music. And even though we can't sing together at the moment, we can still listen to fantastic songs about God. My favourite piece of music to listen to is called The Messiah, and it is by a composer called Handel. In one of the songs, the choir sings, "We all like sheep." I thought it meant that everyone thought sheep were really great animals, which they are. But actually, the words are straight from the Bible, and it goes on to say, "We all, like sheep, have gone astray." And it means that everyone is a bit like sheep who go off when they're not supposed to, where it isn't good for them. And people have gone their own way and wandered from God, and that's not good for them either. But Jesus is our shepherd, and he's a good shepherd and wants to bring us all back to God, which is really great. And I thought I would tell you one of my favourite songs to sing, which is "The Lord's My Shepherd," which is what I love most about him. Maybe you could tell us what are your favourite songs from Breakfast at 9, or you could ask me a question and I can answer it in one of my next videos. Can we listen to the sheep song now? Alan, can you play it for me? They like sheep! It's great! Oh, thank you! So, I'm looking forward to our Bible reading, which is from Mark 14, verses 53 to 65, and David's prepared to talk about it for you to listen to. Well, bye then! I hope you can watch us each week, and I look forward to when we can meet again soon. Bye!
Hi everyone, this is the Chase and Kento. I'm Chase, this is Ken, he's my dad, and I'm the son Chase.
And we're going to read
Mark 14, 53, 65. What's
Jesus
the title?
before the council.
Yes. And they led Jesus away to the high priest, and with him were assemblies of the chief priest and the elders and the scribes. And Peter followed him afar off, even into the palace of the high priest, and sat with the servants and warmed himself at the fire.
And the chief priests and all the council sought for witness against Jesus to put him to death, and found none. For many bare false witness against him, but their witness agreed not together. And there arose certain and bare false witness against him, saying,
We heard him say, I will destroy this temple, and that is made with hands, and within 3 days I'll build another made without hands. But neither so did they witness agree together. And the high priest stood up into the midst and asked Jesus, saying,
answerest thou nothing? What is it
which these witness against thee? But he held his peace and answered nothing. Again the high priest asked him and said unto him, Art thou the Christ, the Son of the Blessed? And Jesus said, I am, and ye shall see the Son
of Man
sitting on the right hand of power, and coming in the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest rent his clothes and saith, What we need any further witnesses? Ye have heard the blasphemy. What think ye? And they all condemned him to the guilty of death.
And some began to spit on him, and to cover his face, and to buffet him, and to say unto him, Prophesy. And the servants did strike him with the palms of their hands.
Thank you. That's the end of the video. We'll introduce the outro. I hope you like the Chasing Ken show. We might record something soon. I hope you like the daily video. See you later. We are just finishing our daily video. Just say one more time, goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, Sheep. Thank you, Ken and Chase, for the reading. So let's just take a look at this story, the story of Jesus before the council. The story picks up in verse 43. Then Jesus was taken to the high priest's house, where all the chief priests, the elders, and the teachers of the law were gathering. Peter followed from a distance and went into the courtyard of the high priest's house. There he sat down with the guards, keeping himself warm by the fire. I want to share the story with you in 4 bullets, and the first one is follow the leader. You remember from the account in the garden how all the disciples had run away. They'd abandoned Jesus as the crowds took Jesus, arrested him, and have taken him off here to the high priest's house. Now, somewhere in the dark and somewhere in the distance, Peter has had a change of heart and a change of mind. He's found just a little courage, and he's turned about, and he's followed the crowds through the dark to the high priest's house. He's watched Jesus taken in, and as he stood out in the cold, he's edged up to where the guards are, to where the others, the servants, are waiting outside by the fire. Clearly it's a cold night, and he's moved in the shadows, under the cover of dark, and he is warming himself with the others. Now the story picks up in verse 55. The chief priests and the whole council tried to find some evidence against Jesus in order to put him to death, but they could not find any. Many witnesses told lies against Jesus, but their stories did not agree. Then some men stood up and told this lie against Jesus. We heard him say, I will tear down this temple which men have made, and after 3 days I will build one that is not made by men. Not even they, however, could make their stories agree. Now there are a few things you need to know about Jewish culture to help you make sense of what is going on in this story. So you see, this is not a trial. It's a kangaroo court. They've already decided the sentence. The sentence is death. They've said so there in verse 55. Now, the only problem is they need to decide what is the crime that he has committed by which they can put him to death for it. Now, the other problem with Jewish culture is that for an accusation or an allegation in court to stand, you needed 2 witnesses. They must share the same story, the same account, and it must be decided then that the two have indeed seen the same thing. Now, for all their efforts, for all the liars they fetch in to tell a story of what Jesus has done or said, they cannot find two to tell the same lie. All they get is one story after another, one lie after another, but nothing by which, within their own law and their own culture, they can say, aha, that is enough. We have heard, these two are agreed, he has done this. It is a crime punishable by death. So my second bullet there, liar, liar. So many liars, no two stories the same. Now, if you were to look at the Gospel of John, and in chapter 2 and verse 19, you'll see there that John records the account of Jesus and this allegation they make against him. They say there in verse 58, we heard him say, I will tear down this temple which men have made, and after 3 days I will build one that is not made by men. Well, you'll see if you read the text, he says, not that, but he says that if they tear down the temple or this temple, he will rebuild it in 3 days. Let me just read that text to you from John chapter 2 and verse 19. And here's what he says. Jesus answered, tear down this temple, and in 3 days I will build it again. Now you'll see there's a very subtle difference there. See, Jesus doesn't refer to a temple built by men, and therefore he's not referring to the brick-built temple, the place that they met to worship. But this temple, the one that he's referring to, is his own body. What he will rebuild in 3 days is a reference to what will happen after his death, that on the third day he will come back to life. So they have either misunderstood accidentally or intentionally that Jesus has claimed that he will tear down the temple and he will rebuild it. But still they cannot find two to agree that this is what he said or how he said it. Then my third bullet, a play on the film, The Silence of the Lamb. Verse 60, it reads, the high priest stood in front of them all and questioned Jesus. Have you no answer to the accusation they bring against you? But Jesus kept quiet and would not say a word. Again, the high priest questioned him, are you the Messiah, the Son of the blessed God? And this is it. This is the crunch point. Up until now, Jesus has said nothing in response to the lies and the allegations against him. If it had been you or I and someone to stand barefaced in front of us and lie about us, I'm sure you'd want to say, that's not true. I never said that. But Jesus, he says nothing. But as we come to my last point, I want to make this my last point of the 4, guilty verdict. Now, Jesus has been challenged there in verse 61. Are you the Messiah, the Son of the blessed God? Here is how Jesus responds. I am, answered Jesus, and you will see the Son of Man seated on the right hand of the Almighty, coming with the clouds of heaven. You see, Jesus could not deny himself. This was indeed who he was. This is who he claimed to be. And this is so important. It's important for us here and now, because if Jesus were not who he claimed to be, if he were not the Son of God, then there were no hope for us. There was nothing for those outside of the Jewish faith. We'd have been stuck with a Jewish cultural religion and no hope for any. So Jesus says, yes, I am the Son of God. Then verse 63, the high priest tore his robes and said, we don't need any more witnesses. You heard this blasphemy. What is your decision? They all voted against him. He was guilty and should be put to death. Some of them began to spit on Jesus, and they blindfolded him and hit him. Guess who hit you, they said. and the guards took him and slapped him. Now, the high priest accuses Jesus of blasphemy, a crime that in Jewish law and Jewish culture was indeed punishable by death. It was a terrible sin to claim to be God. Unless, of course, you actually were God, if you were the Son of God himself. Now, having found him guilty of this crime of being the Son of God by Jesus' own confession, they begin to abuse him. But Jesus once more remains silent as they spit on him and as they slap him and as they abuse him. He doesn't plead his innocence. He isn't trying to protect his life, because you see, when he spent that night in the garden, just a few hours before where we are now in the story, when he said to his Father, "Please let this cup pass from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." This is what he and the Father resolved needed to be done. This was the Father's will, and Jesus would follow it. Jesus would go through the trial. He knew he'd be found guilty. He knew his penalty was death. He knew the nature of the death that he would die. And yet he remained silent. He didn't cry. He didn't complain. He didn't shield himself. He took the abuse of these men, and he did it in silence for the honour and obedience of his Father. So our story from these few verses from 53 to 65, a story of following the leader, a story of liar, liar, the story of the silence of the Lamb, the story of the guilty verdict. Jesus, found guilty, worthy of death, before they decided what was the crime. And in due course, they arrived at the verdict they were seeking. Now they had to work out how to put him to death. As you'll learn in the story that follows, the Jews didn't have that authority. They needed some Roman help. We'll come to more of that story next week. But thank you for joining us for our talk this morning.
Hello everybody, this is the COVID-19 edition of the Family Prayer. Our Father in heaven, you are in control of the whole earth. May your holy name be honoured, especially in all our extra time. May your kingdom come and save us from our broken world. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, as we love and care for all those around us. Give us today the food we need and help us to ensure others have all they need. Forgive us the wrongs we have done. We are truly sorry, as we forgive the wrongs that others have done to us. Yes, even those who brought all the toilet rolls and hand gel. Do not bring us to hard testing, but keep us safe from the evil one. Amen. Hello from the Latchmans, and this is the first time that Luna has been to Breakfast Church. Hello. Hey.
Hey! Ho! Here we go. Hey! Ho! Enough is too big, big, big for his power. Enough is too little, little for his care. Enough is too big, big, big for his power. Enough is too really, really for his care. Here comes the elephant. Big, big, big for his power. Enough is too incy, wincy for his care. Here comes the bus. It's too big, big, big for his power. Enough is too teeny, teeny for his care. He is God of the big, God of the little, God of the stuff, somewhere in the middle. The king of moving mountains loves you more than you will ever know. Enough is too big, enough is too big, big. somewhere in the middle, the king of the moving mountains loves you more than you will ever know.
Are you ready? Get your force, here we go.
Hey! Ho!
One more time and
Hey! Ho!
The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me lie in pastures green. He leads me by the still, still waters. His goodness restores my soul. And I will trust in you alone. And I will trust in you alone. For your endless mercy follows me. Your goodness will lead me home. He guides my ways in righteousness, and He anoints my head with oil, and my cup it overflows with joy. I feast on His pure delights, and I will trust in you alone. And I will trust in you alone. For your endless mercy follows me. Your goodness will lead me home. And though I walk the darkest path, I will not fear the evil one. For you are with me, and your rod and staff are the comfort I need to know. And I will trust in you alone. And I will trust in you alone. For your endless mercy follows me. Your goodness will lead me home. And I will trust, and I will trust in you alone. And I will trust in you alone. For your endless mercy follows me. Your goodness will lead me home. For your endless mercy. For your endless mercy follows me. Your goodness will